Anyway, firstly, I should say that I know you're expecting Beverly Bigger here today, but I'm sorry to advise that she is unwell and unable to make the conference. For those who, thank you for the invitation and for the introduction here. I certainly will try to fill Beverly's shoes today, not in the literal sense, of course. I don't want any wisecracks about any of it. So this, unfortunately, because I literally did have 2 days to try and pull this together, normally I would try to put a presentation together with a few odd funnies. I just have not had the time to do that because of other pressures and other fronts, so I'm afraid you've just got the backdrop and me to listen to. This session then is to look at both the Social Housing Development Programme, which remains the primary development vehicle for housing associations in Northern Ireland, and emerging opportunities to develop social and affordable housing through new initiatives and funding mechanisms. I will cover today what government is asking of housing associations, the key challenges in delivery, and the scope for growth and diversity through expanding development activities, particularly in housing-led regeneration. And for Piers Williamson's sake, I'll try not to put too many ums in. I intend to speak today then about 4 specific areas, and I am then happy. That's a euphemism, if I could regret that. Happy to take any questions at the panel question and answer session later. The 4 areas I believe of common interest are the Social Housing Development Programme, including key challenges in delivery, availability of funding through grant for the remainder of the programme and beyond, and government targets and expectations. New opportunities through the housing strategy to develop more social and affordable housing. What is meant by housing-led regeneration. And Minister does not particularly like the title housing-led regeneration, so we're going to have to come up with some sort of other clicky, catchy title, which might be more receptive. What government's priorities are within this programme, and how housing associations have successfully led regeneration programmes elsewhere in the UK. And fourthly then, encouraging housing associations to consider new programmes and funding mechanisms. In relation to the Social Housing Development Programme, the main challenges are the identified need for 2,000 new social homes per year, the fact that there are 41,360 applicants on the social waiting list, with a total stock of 110,800. The need to grow the sector by 1/3 or 37% to house everyone on the waiting list, or by 1/5, 20%, if we want to house all those defined as being in housing stress. And only four out of 29 housing associations deliver the majority of the new build programme. I would remind you all that associations were in fact challenged last year at conference to do more to make their reserves available to those who wish to do more. And to be honest, I find it disappointing that this position remains largely the same as it was last year, leading to the perception that associations are choosing to either ignore the needs of the very communities that they claim to serve by sitting on their assets and not using these to meet the growing demands for housing for those most in need. So I suspect you're all now sitting down there thinking, oh, it's all right for him standing up there. What has government done for us? Well, what have we done for you? We have helped, as far as we're concerned, and that we've listened to associations, and we've worked with you over this last year to alleviate any identified blockages in the system. Incentives have also been offered to encourage associations to do much more, and advanced land purchases have been incentivised to ensure associations have the land to develop in future years. We have listened to your views on design and build, and also then supported you to pilot a competitive design and build platform with the hope that this approach will be used by other housing associations in future years. In terms of housing association grant, we listened to your comments about the uncertainty of grant levels as we move from one year to the next. That grant rate has now been set for the comprehensive spending review period, and we've maintained that grant at 45%. And again, I'll have to refer to Piers this morning, who said that in fact this is really generous when looked and viewed at the position in England, and looked longingly here by those. You also told us about the difficulties of consultation. And so on the back of that, we have this year undertaken a review of consultation arrangements, and Minister McCausland addressed this yesterday in his speech. We expect to have the recommendations for changes by the end of this financial year. We are also to set up a housing supply forum by March 2014, which will run until the end of 2015, and we expect recommendations from this to be implemented in 2015-16. There are, however, over 30 stakeholders or housing interest groups, so we may need to structure this into core task force and subgroups around specific key themes. For example, planning, finance, policy, and legislation. The Housing Supply Forum will be expected to identify innovative ways to use the resources available to increase the supply of housing to meet the growing demands for those most in need. Let me now look at the opportunities for new social and affordable homes through the housing strategy. Northern Ireland Co-ownership Housing Association has delivered a valuable shared equity scheme to support first-time buyers in Northern Ireland for many years, but demand for this support is outstripping supply. Supply, I mean, in what funding we can give as far as co-ownership is concerned. We therefore bid for unsecured Get Britain Building funding of £19 million for loans to 3 housing associations to develop alternative affordable housing schemes and models. Loans are to be repaid in full by March 2020, and targets are to deliver 600 new homes plus 150 empty homes. We predict that the demand for affordable homes will be 8,000 between 2012-13 and 2019-20. The aim is that, as far as affordable housing is concerned, that co-ownership delivers around 5,000, taking into account not all applicants will be successful. We've given £35 million over the period 10-11 to 13-14 to co-ownership and made a bid for an additional £10 million in the October monitoring round. Unfortunately, we heard yesterday we may not just achieve all of that. We have also bid for £20 million for a rent-to-build pilot and bid through ring-fence capital transactions for an empty homes loan fund to bring empty homes back into use as affordable homes for sale or to rent. Let's look now at the Housing-Led Regeneration Initiative, and I know Carol will be speaking on this as well, and some other interlinking initiatives such as apprenticeships, the stock transfer programme, the empty home strategy, and the Living Over the Shops initiative. With Housing-Led Regeneration, let me say at the outset that bricks and mortar are the easy parts. Carol's going to say that too, we compared notes a minute ago. The challenge will be to create places where people want to live long term. And I would judge success with housing-led regenerations in that there hopefully will be a list of people then who want to live in those particular places. Part of our work will involve the regeneration of areas that have experienced decline. Working with stakeholders and communities, we will look at what a place needs to become more sustainable. We anticipate that this will require a combination of physical, social and economic improvements such as building new homes, creating green spaces and providing employment opportunities for local people. Therefore, the aims of housing-led regeneration are to target areas of social housing market failure, to improve public spaces, facilities, employment and training prospects, to look at new business ventures using social economy model, to improve the attractiveness of the area's living conditions and boost economic activity and make better use of public assets. And again, going back to yesterday and the presenters, this is the sort of real stuff that they were leading on and saying how successful they're being. These aims are in line with the European Regional Development Fund, which recommends that housing interventions should take place within the framework of an integrated approach, which includes actions in the fields of education, health, social affairs, employment, and security. Housing-led regeneration areas are largely close to inner-city areas, yet confronted by population decline, poverty, and usually have a bad reputation because of a progressive decline. The aim is to complement physical interventions with social, economic, environmental, and cultural activities to build and strengthen active citizenship in these areas. Action will include the renovation of derelict void stock, the renewal of public places and spaces, and amenities and community building activities, along with support for business and the creation of jobs. However, from the outset, it is vital that we all must recognise the need for meaningful engagement with local residents and elected representatives to make this a success. And again, the Minister said yesterday about the involvement of politicians at an early stage. We therefore aim to have a locally based project manager in each area, tasked with driving the programme and leading in the development of action plans for those particular areas. And we hope that this will give the community a sense that we really are going to do something as far as these areas are concerned. The potential benefits can be immense and include economic, sustainable economic growth and job creation, social, strengthen social cohesion in parallel with housing interventions, sustainability, energy-related benefits and housing improvements, and new build to reduce energy consumption and reduce fuel poverty. A priority within the housing-led regeneration initiative would be apprenticeships, which can be key for sustainable economic growth and job creation. And again, we heard about this yesterday. Social clauses can play a valuable role, particularly as in the current economic climate. There is growing concern that young people without qualifications are finding it increasingly difficult to enter the labour market. Let's not forget that the majority of these young people are living within our social housing developments. Apprenticeships can also offer organisational benefits to housing associations through meeting their wider social responsibility obligations, and also by providing a cost-effective approach to the recruitment of staff. Construction and non-construction related areas could include housing management, customer services and business administration. Housing associations could also look at pre-apprenticeship training programmes for tenants to help them access apprenticeships, and even consider exploring the potential for developing direct labour organisations, or I know some already have the handyman service. There are opportunities to improve productivity, to diversify your workforce, and the capacity for innovation is there. There is also an opportunity to support tenants into financial independence through getting jobs. As an example of good practice, during the Minister's recent visit to Liverpool and Manchester, he saw at first hand the positive impact that apprentices have had on the work of Great Places Housing Group, something associations may wish to research. The stock transfer programme is another priority. The Housing Executive has identified 2,500 houses which are currently in need of significant upgrading and repair. Through the stock transfer programme, these will be offered to housing associations through a competitive scheme. We know this approach works well, as we have piloted the recent scheme in Rinmore here in Derry, and we've just had the successful ballot for our second venture at Bloomfield and Bangor, with a 96% vote in favour of moving to Oakley Housing Association. Well done to Oakley for selling a wonderful job. There will be 3 phases to the programme, and the first phase is already out there with associations. What we're trying to do now is get a time-limited programme, so that we'll do this in a trickle fashion. We will not be throwing this all to you in a lump sum. There's also the Empty Home Strategy, which launched in September 2013. Strategy is important, particularly as recent figures provided by Land and Property Services of DFP show that there are over 30,000 empty residential properties in Northern Ireland. DSD is working closely with the Housing Executive to work to identify and report empty properties, and then to identify property owners and potential funding streams available to bring these back into use. In relation to funding, there's a bid for £3.6 million for an empty home loan fund. And again, we heard yesterday you might get slightly more than that. And discussions are ongoing with ownership around administration of such a fund. Finally, there is also the Living Over the Shops initiative. And again, this is another one, term that the Minister's not particularly fond of, so we might be changing this. And we aim to commence consultation and proposals for this in this financial year, in order to help reinvigorate our towns and cities. And so to end, because I'm running very close to my time, and before the question and answer panel, because I do expect to get a few, I've covered quite a lot here this morning, and I therefore pose this question to you in the context of what I have said. What more can housing associations do in relation to the Social Housing Development Programme and the new opportunities emerging through the housing strategy? We need new programme and innovative funding mechanisms, and I believe I set out today the challenge is to consider, along with a number of initiatives, that housing associations could draw on and develop for the future. The challenge to us all is to take an innovative approach to developing family housing, which will encourage the regeneration of our towns and cities, building on a shared ethos. Thank you.